Hey Artnerds! So in our last tutorial video, we did some exploratory sketching and just kind of explored the forms of different animals. And you guys can check out that video by clicking the link down in the description below. I'm also going to link several other useful tutorials for you guys. Today we're taking that a step further and we are going to figure out basic stick figure forms, posable stick figure forms like what I do with Constructive Human Anatomy for several different animals. We're going to be doing a cat. We're going to be doing a duck, which you can barely see. We're going to be doing a dog. We've got, I think, 2 elephants in here. We've got a crow, and believe it or not, finding realistic skeleton forms for crows, horses, cats, basically impossible because of the ridiculous Halloween industry that needs to put like tails and ears on these animals in their skeletal forms. Dolphins, horses, we got a couple horses here, a bear, crocodile, giraffe, and another elephant. And what we're going to do in the video after this one is we're going to build on these stick figures that we're going to create using reference and volumetric 3D forms. And we're going to kind of figure out how to construct these animals. So my goal isn't to create a perfect system of construction for one animal, but rather to just kind of figure out a loose method of construction for several animals. So I'm going to walk you guys through the cat. I wanted to pick some kind of common household animals, animals that people are very familiar with, as well as some more exotic animals that might have unique skeletal structures. So what I'm doing with this today is I'm going to be using tracing paper, but if you have a tablet, you can do this in Procreate, you can do this in Photoshop, you can do this in Medibang. Reduce the opacity on your reference image and add another layer and then draw on top of that. And I'm going to save these as references for my drawing class that I teach, but I'm also saving these as references for myself because I want to get better at drawing animals, and this is an area that I'm kind of weak. So this might seem a little bit too easy, but it's really going to help me better understand how this animal is constructed. So we've got our cat. I'm approaching this kind of the way I normally approach human anatomy. So we have, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of block in the basic shapes. And I wish I had multiple views of each animal. I assume there's kind of like a collarbone here because we see the scapula here. And then we notice that cat's legs are digigrade. They go backwards. And then this would be like the wrist, and these would be like the fingers. Same thing over here. Then we have a really long neck, and we have kind of a short, like a squat oval, and then a longer oval is the face pan. So surprising how much neck cats have. Bowie doesn't look like he has that much neck. Then we have the pelvis over here, and just from what I know, we know we have the same bone on the other side. The tailbone connects in. Then we have the knee bones, you can see because there's the patella there. These are digigrade as well, so they go backwards. And then cats have really long feet, so this would be the ankle, and then these would be the toes down here. And then we have the little tailbone, and then we actually have the tail itself. So that's our base skeleton, our base stick figure view for a cat. And where this is going to come in handy, I'm going to do this in a follow-up video, is we're going to use this stick figure that we've developed we're going to try drawing just gesture poses of cats from reference. So that's going to be coming up in another video. I apologize, the duck is a little bit difficult to see. I'm going to go ahead and pop some tracing paper on and we'll start walking through this one. Now, one of the things that's going to make the duck really tricky is we know it has wings, and the wings are kind of obscuring the majority of the duck's body. So for our duck, we have a rib cage. And then I know we have our wing, and unfortunately I can't see the wing super well, so I'm guessing, which is a bad thing to do. I'm gonna have to reference that again later. We have the head, and this printout is so fine, and my printer had kind of a mishap. That's what happens when you buy cheap toner. Don't buy cheap toner. I was buying cheap toner because I was forced to print all of my students' minis for NCE making minis, and that's like thousands of pages, and I was going through toner like crazy, so I tried to save a little bit of money. Didn't work out so well. Okay, so we have a really long neck, and then we have the little tail there. The legs on the duck are also digigrade. I would be interested. I need to find some better views for birds. Birds are a little bit hard to find good skeletons for online because of those stupid Halloween skeletons. And I know some people love them, but for reference, they're useless. Because I need better views on the duck. Duck is an animal that I would need a lot more reference from so I could better understand the skeletal structure. We have kind of like a back toe there. What's going on? What is this? I can't really tell. And then we have the 3 webbed feet here. So duck is something that I'm gonna need more reference for, so. Make a note for myself. Next, we have dog. And one of the things I hope you guys take from my drawing tutorials is not like necessarily a strict this is how we draw approach, but multiple options for problem solving, how to do your own research, how to learn how to draw things, how to figure things out on your own, because that's going to last you a lot longer than a strict step-by-step approach. So the dog and the cat aren't too dissimilar. We have our rib cage, the scapula, which is like the back shoulder bones that attach to the arms and the shoulders. The scapula is a bit lower down in the dog, and we're not trying to draw the skeleton beat for beat. We're trying to develop stick figures here. So here is the wrist part on the dog's forelegs, and it's a bit more up than it was in the cat. The neck is not quite as long. Then again, we have kind of a shallow oval. And then for this particular breed of dog, we have kind of a longer cone where the muzzle would be, where the snout would be. Then we have the backbone. And on this particular taxidermy dog, the pelvis is actually lower than it is in the cat, because he's in a cower position. And these would be the knees, the lower legs, the ankles, and then where they connect in with the toes. And then for this one, so there's the tailbone, and they actually have the tail tucked between his legs. So this whole posture tells us that this dog is in kind of a cowering position. All right, now we're going to try something a bit more exotic. We have an elephant. Doing these printouts this way and not just doing it digitally and screen capturing it is really helpful, because it creates a physical manipulative that I can hand to my students, and they can flip through and see and compare the differences. And it's also a little bit more accessible for some of them, because a lot of them have limited tablet access since they are younger. And I definitely want to support their parents' decision in that. So having like an actual physical thing that they can manipulate over a printout is something that they can emulate at home, that you guys can emulate at home. And it's also easy for me to demonstrate on screen like this. And it gives me a finished product. So we have a really, really long rib cage for the elephant, which is probably boxed out like this. So probably kind of triangular in shape. And the backbone runs through it. So we're going to connect our backbone. And it's really interesting to see like where the scapula fall for different animals, as well as how the pelvis differs, because for the elephant, the pelvis is actually quite, I would say, kind of unusual. So what's neat is once you kind of understand the basics of human anatomy, you can apply a lot. I mean, it's not one-to-one, obviously, but you can apply a lot of your knowledge to other mammals, because often we have some of the same skeletal parts, they're just in different areas. So elephants actually have kind of tiny little feet with 3 little toes and then a back toe. And then up here, it looks like their legs are actually very close together in the front. And they have this kind of unusual elbow protrusion. I wonder if that would be what we call our funny bone. I don't know. And then here's the wrist. And then we know they have those 3 toes. Don't know what's going on right there though. And then we have a lot of bone mass right here. We know the head, the neck would be protruding somewhere around there. Then for the head, this actually has kind of a triangular shape because it's wider and flared in the back. And I'm not going to worry too much about the tusks. And then for the tail, it's almost like a dog. Alright, so that's our elephant. Next we have our crow. I had a really hard time finding just a skeleton of this. Same with the cat. However, this diagram is a really good place to start. So with the crow, it's at, ooh, look at that dainty little collarbone there. But we're really focusing more on body masses, and this one's a lot easier to understand than the duck. So we have our rib cage here, and it's kind of triangular at the top and at the bottom. And then we have this long bone here, which I'm drawing because I think it's going to be important to understanding the gesture of the animal. Then we have, finally, we can see how the wings work. They're a lot like human arms, and with this part being like the hand. So really we're just focusing on the stick figure and just understanding. And then that would be like a finger. And then we have this long neck. I'm surprised by how long crows' necks are. Then we have kind of a small oval here. And then we have, these are going to be cones. At least in the purposes of stick figuring things out. Okay. Then we have, look at that pelvis. We have a triangular pelvis that I know there's 2 sides to it. So it's going to be more like a pyramid, really. And then we have a little tailbone here to waggle those tail feathers. And then on either side we have our legs. And then like the duck, so drawing the crow actually kind of helps me better understand the duck's form. We have our 3 frontal toes and then our back toe. Frontal and backal, right? Dorsal. All right, so we've got our crow. You guys can see how the stick figures really differ from the actual skeleton form itself. Next, we have an unusual one. We have a dolphin. So this one's going to be kind of fun. So with the dolphin, really we know this would all be like a big, long, curved, conical shape. But we're going to start with just creating kind of our stick figures. So here is our rib cage. And then we have the flippers. So these would be the scapula, right? And normally those are on the back, but because the flippers on a dolphin are kind of underneath to the front, they are closer to the bottom of the dolphin. And then they have these kind of creepy 4 long finger things. And like when we're looking at a dolphin, right, that's just a smooth flipper. If you guys remember from the last tutorial. And the same thing over here. Then it has like no neck at all. Then its skull is kind of unusually shaped. And then we have, like with the crow, we have the beak of the dolphin, the bottlenose of the dolphin. This isn't a bottlenose, though. This is a Risso's dolphin. And then, so this is interesting, right? We have this really long, I don't see any back legs. We have this really long spine. And then at the top, we have like, these are the vertebrae, right? But they stick out a whole lot, basically making like a dorsal fin. And then we have some more at the bottom, but you guys can see, I don't see any back pelvis and I don't see any back legs. Apologize for the buzzing there. So what I'm kind of tempted to do for this one is to draw these forms just to better help us understand the stick figure basic skeleton structure of a dolphin. Okay, so next we have a couple horses. I'm going to start with the easier horse and then we'll do the reared up horse. Okay, so I apologize for the smaller size of our little horse here. We have our rib cage. So that's something I've noticed about all of the animals we've drawn, is that all of them, I think pretty much all vertebrates are going to have a rib cage. We haven't drawn any fish yet, but other than shark, which are just made up of cartilage. So I apologize that this is so small and so hard to see. Hopefully when we draw our reared up horse, we can actually see that better. So there's a leg there. I think this is actually part of what would be our collarbone, and I think it bows over to the other side, because this would be where our shoulder would be, and then this is where our elbow would be. And this is so hard to see, I do apologize for that. And then we have our neck, and then here's something kind of interesting. We have like a bend in it and some vertebrae up here. And then, so horses' heads seem to be kind of triangular and shaped like a pyramid. Then we have our backbone, and it does protrude a little bit, kind of like with the dolphin. We have our pelvis bone here. And then there's like some spurs, which is, it's probably very analogous to what our pelvis looks like. And maybe I'll go over the human skeleton and how I break that down into my own stick figure form with you guys. I'll do that as its own video though. I mean, yes, we are animals, but I think we should, I spent a lot of time drawing people, so I think it'd be nice to give that its own video. Okay, and then we have the tailbone. So that is one horse. We're going to move over now to a much larger, easier to see view of a horse. All right, so we've got our easier to see horse. And this is fun because this one is actually unusually posed. And I tried not to do any unusual poses just because we're kind of just trying to get the basics of the skeletal structure, the basics of a stick figure here. That's interesting that it's open all at the bottom. But I do think practicing like this and just doing your stick figure practice over and over again is kind of a good way to understand the basics of constructing these animals. And I know for me, posing them is often the hardest. Like posing animals realistically is the hardest part for me because the rest just kind of breaks down into volumetric construction and working from reference. So perhaps this is ooh, look at the pelvis. The pelvis is kind of interesting. So it's a V shape. And then, so drawing it from another angle really adds a lot to my understanding. I kind of want to go through and do some more posed bone sketches now that we're kind of getting the basics, we're kind of understanding the basics, and we're gaining confidence. See how much quicker it is when we kind of understand the basics too. And then when you can do these stick figures, you can very quickly pose these animals. And if you have a good understanding of the range of movement available for each animal, or available like that the skeletal structure and the musculature structure allows for, it's going to become a lot easier to draw animals from imagination rather than from reference. Well, and I'm very tied to drawing animals from reference. It's in a way, it kind of hinders me from doing what I want to do. So I'm really hoping this is going to give me more confidence in drawing and posing animals. So next we're drawing a bear. And this was another one where I kind of struggled to find good reference of the bear just kind of casually posed rather than rearing up. Although it would be fun to do a reared up bear from reference as well. So we've got kind of a smaller sketch of a basic bear skeleton. We've kind of started to notice a lot of similarities, particularly among mammals, regarding muscular structure and how these animals are configured. So we have, of course, we have our rib cage to protect the lungs and the heart. And generally, it seems to be vaguely egg-shaped, but often pyramidal or triangular. We have our neck. With a lot of these mammals, particularly the carnivorous mammals, we have kind of an elongated head, and this one looks like it's probably more boxy in nature. Then, and it's hard to see here, looks like this is the collarbone towards the front, and like our elephant, which is not carnivorous, but the forelegs are very closely set together, it looks like. And it's a lot of fun to kind of compare and contrast different animals and compare them to what I know about the human structural system. I took a constructive human anatomy class at SCAD. I really loved it. It really kind of influenced a lot of my work. So I'm fairly familiar with the human musculature and skeletal system, but when it comes to animals, I'm, not particularly. And then we have our back legs here, and these appear not to be digigrade. Look where the knee goes. It goes forward. Well, okay, so bears are weird because the front legs go back and the back legs go forward. Interesting. And then we have our little tail there. And there is our Ursa Major. Next, we have another interesting one. We have a crocodile. So this is our first reptile. I would like to introduce more reptile and amphibian skeletal studies as well, because I draw a lot of amphibians and reptiles for 7-inch Kara, and this is an area I would love to get better at because I'm actually quite passionate about herpetology. It's one of my first loves. So I'm kind of surprised I didn't dig up more reptiles and amphibians. I think when I was selecting my skeletons, I was going for animals like cats, dogs, and megafauna that people tend to just already think are cute and already like, rather than just what Becca likes. Okay, so our crocodile friend has got an interesting change in anatomy. He has kind of, yes, look, it's like a diamond-shaped rib cage more so than a sort of egg-shaped rib cage like we've been doing. And then his little forelegs appear to be very close together. And then he's got 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. And I apologize, it's not, we're still studying, we're still learning. He's got kind of a thick neck too. And then we've got, so we've got 2 triangles. When shut, they probably form one triangle. Or pyramid. We've got 2 pyramids. When shut, they probably form one. See, this is why it's good to have a basic understanding of those 3D volumetric forms that we've covered in the past, because it can help you analyze what you're seeing and recreate it. Okay. Then his pelvis, he's got these like weird little, I don't know what that is, but I'm not concerned about it for the purposes of this, but his pelvis is kind of weird. And he's got this big ankle bone, probably because when he's waddling around, it seems like a lot of his weight might be going to the back. And then we have his backbone here. Oh, messed up a little bit. Backbone here, and then his super long tail. And then his head does have these little triangular protrusions. I don't know, there's something kind of fun about looking at, like, there's stick figures. There's something kind of charming about them. Okay, so we have drawn a crocodile stick figure. Next, we have a giraffe. And I think our giraffe is the last one because the elephant we had looks like it's a repeat of our first elephant. Yeah, it's a repeat of our first elephant. So all we have left is our giraffe. Okay, so giraffe is a fun one too. We've got, they're all kind of fun ones. We've got the rib cage. And then we've got, so this would be the scapula. And it seems like it's actually pretty important to the form of this animal. Then we have our collarbone here. And then they've got these long, dainty legs. And then we have a really interesting, okay, so this would be where the knees are. Okay, so this is the pelvis, kind of U-shaped. And then we have, this would be where the knee is. Right? I don't know. Because maybe this is, I don't think so though. I think that's where the ankle would be. And then I'm not super sure. Because I know where the hoofs are, that would be where the toe would be for us. Then we also have like kind of like the dolphin, right? Where it's got like this real, I wonder if this is to store fat, to provide space to store fat. The vertebrae are really extended. And also on the pelvis, we have this longer fortified protrusion, and then we have this little tail. Oh my goodness. And then it seems like the neck on our giraffe is right here at the top. And then talk about a triangular little head. That is a pyramid with two little horns. So today we kind of built on what we did in our last tutorial. In our last tutorial, we were just kind of discovering the major forms of several different animals. Today we're trying to figure out how to draw them as a posable stick figure mannequin. So we have our giraffe. We have a crocodile. It makes me laugh. He just looks so happy. Kind of goofy little guy. We have a bear. And the bear is the one I kind of want to explore more in the future. Do some more skeletal studies. We have a couple of horses. So we have a horse rearing up. And we also have just kind of a horse standing. Almost looks like a dog. We have a dolphin. The dolphin's kind of a weird one in my opinion. We have a crow. And the crow is going to help me better understand how to draw other birds. We have an elephant. Now I opted not to draw the tusks. Kind of weird, huh? When you're not sure what animal it is when you lift up the overlay. It's kind of weird, isn't it? We have a dog. This is unfortunately a cowering dog, poor baby. We have a duck, which I found difficult to understand because of the reference is just very faint and everything's on top of each other, but I do actually feel like I understand the duck a bit better now. So we have this bone here, like we did in the crow. We have here kind of the wishbone, and then the wings seem to actually be going up and then folded back, so I kind of drew them backwards. And then we have, not super sure what's going on back there. Still learning, still figuring things out. And then finally, we have a cat. So what I'm going to do is I am going to print out some cat pose reference and practice drawing our stick figure skeletal structure on top of that, and I'll go over that with you guys as well. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this was really inspiring for you guys, gave you some food for thought, maybe some ideas that you can take with you into your own classrooms or you can take with you into your sketchbook. I'm really excited to show these to my students, and I'm also really excited to hopefully develop some better methods that I can use to teach people how to draw animals and to teach myself how to draw animals as well. So if you guys found this useful, helpful, informative, I have loads more resources over at natosoup.blogspot.com, and I have more drawing tutorials in my favorite drawing tutorials playlist. I'm going to link everything you need down in the description below. If you want to help me to continue to do what I'm doing, to take the time to record, to edit, and to share videos like this one to help you guys out, you guys can join me over on Patreon at patreon.com/natosoup or at Coffee for a one-time tip at ko-fi.com/natosoup. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in our next video. Bye!